What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back, the Talk the Line gang, for an NBA Finals preview. Joined, as always, by gambling expert Sammy P and Chris Broussard, FS1 NBA insider. Folks, we got to start the show with breaking news. Huge! Giannis has been upgraded from doubtful to questionable for tonight's Game 1. We'll talk about how that impacts the line, Sammy P, shortly. But Chris Broussard, I'm going to start with you. Bucks Suns, huge NBA Finals game, and now Giannis upgraded to questionable. How does this impact Game 1?
Well, first of all, I still am not expecting to see him play, but I think this might be a little bit of gamesmanship on the part of the Bucks. Yeah, okay, he's improving, he's getting better, but this keeps the Phoenix Suns guessing. You know, how do we prepare? Is Giannis going to be there or not? Obviously, they're preparing as if he is, but this plays games on your mind, like will he play or won't he play? So I think that's smart on the part of the Bucks. Also, I do think there's a benefit. If he plays tonight, I would expect him to be limited. You know, with that hyperextended knee, I would expect his lateral movement to be limited. Maybe his Euro step is off, or he's just out of rhythm and he's a bit rusty. But bringing him back tonight would still be good if they can, because then next game or even in the second half, he's beginning to feel like his old self. So that would be beneficial. But it's not that bad if the Bucks open the series without him, because you get to look at how Phoenix is playing you, and you get to see how you match up with them without Phoenix. And if you can split, or without Giannis, if you can split one of these two games, these first two games, and then you go back to Milwaukee with Giannis able to play, that's a huge and physical advantage for the Bucks.
All right, so Sammy P, the line has ticked down from 6 to 5.5 here in the last 30 minutes. The total kind of pinging between 218, 219.5. I'm a little surprised at that total. We'll get to later, but any thoughts on the line movement here with Giannis being upgraded to questionable?
Well, it's a guessing game, and we've had this multiple times now throughout this postseason. Bookmakers are not only handicapping the two teams, but they're handicapping the uncertainty of superstar players. We saw it with Anthony Davis in the Lakers-Suns series. We saw it with Trae Young in the last series against Milwaukee. Like, okay, Trae Young gets cleared. What does it mean, though? How healthy is he? Nobody knows, and that's the hard part. So the number, let's talk about the number, because that's the show. Talk the line. When the number opens 6, they're telling you, the sportsbooks are telling you, that even if Giannis plays, there are doubts about his effectiveness, his stamina, his conditioning, and I think the team play, because you just drop a superstar back onto the floor, all of a sudden everybody goes back into that role. Jrue Holiday becomes less aggressive. Chris Middleton gets less usage and less touches. So throwing a superstar back into the fold has a lot of questions. You're not getting Giannis at 100% or anywhere close to it. Even if he plays, nobody knows how effective he's going to be, and that's why it's so tough to handicap the game.
Yeah, and Chris Broussard mentioned gamesmanship. Listen, Adrian Wojnarowski just tweeted, as we're doing this show live, that Giannis is a game-time decision. So he's gone from doubtful to game-time decision in the span of an hour, which, I mean, listen, if you're trying to gin up TV ratings, I'm sure more people are going to watch. Is Giannis going to play? But, Sam, I want to go back to something you said. You know, this is a Suns team that has dominated opponents in Game 1. 3-0 against the spread in each of their Game 1s. Really have rolled the opponent, and I like them to roll tonight. You didn't offer a pick. It is early in the show. I don't want to put you on the spot. Broussard, we'll get to you in a sec, but I love the Suns here at 5.5.
I like the under more in the game. I think defensively, both of these teams are better than they appear on the surface. And I think the Bucks obviously are easier to guard with Giannis off the floor. But if Giannis plays, it becomes hocus pocus. All right, does Giannis get enough shots? Does Middleton get enough shots? It's almost like reinserting somebody, like I said. It almost makes things more difficult in the moment. But to Chris's point, obviously they're better over time with Giannis on the floor. So I have no play on the side. I think, in fact, there are some props that we'll talk about later on for Game 1 that I like a lot more. My favorite play is under 219.5. And how about this, CB? The Bucks have not covered a single Game 1 in the NBA playoffs. Not a single Game 1. They've won a lot of them, but they haven't covered one of them yet.
Spicy. Chris, let me ask you this real quick. When you think about a Game 1 and nerves, okay, there's only one player in these finals with any finals experience, Jay Crowder last year with the Heat. I mean, I'm with Sam. I'm on the under here. I think it's going to be a bit of a tight game on both sides. Do you like a low-scoring affair in Game 1?
Well, look, Phoenix, with their defense, they've won some low-scoring games. And Chris Paul plays a much more deliberate game than Cameron Payne. So it could be a low-scoring game. And I think Phoenix certainly can win that. They can win at any pace. They've proven that. But as far as nerves, I don't think they're going to be overwhelmed by them on either side, especially Phoenix. Phoenix, look, the time for nerves was earlier in the postseason. DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker, as well as other players, but those are their two young stars. They're making their first postseason appearance against LeBron James. And that's a situation that should make you nervous, but yet they went out there and obviously both of them played very well. And they've shown that throughout the postseason that they're playing really at a level that belies their lack of experience in the postseason. So I don't expect to see those two struggle. I don't expect to see them overwhelmed by nerves. Sam is right, though. Milwaukee, they start not only in games ones, but they're 1-3 in their last two series in the first two games of each series. And that includes two home games against Atlanta, which is not nearly as good as this Phoenix team. So they seem to kind of need to feel out the opponent and see how they're defending them before they kind of catch their stride. Chris Middleton being as big a culprit as anyone, he's struggled in the first two games of all the series, essentially, in these playoffs. And then games 3 through 7, he really plays at his best at a higher level, hits more shots, averages more points. So that's something to watch for. He can't come out slowly if they have designs on getting a split in these two games in Phoenix.
All right, let's move to player props, where you can make a lot of money in these playoffs hitting player props. You know, sides can be tough, the injuries we talked about. I want to start with Devin Booker, over 2.5 three-pointers. Folks, I have been hammering away over on three-pointers from a lot of players. It's been very lucrative. Devin Booker seems mispriced here, Sam, at 2.5. Now, I have been reading that Devin Booker used to go against P.J. Tucker in practice in Phoenix. Earl Watson, the coach, purposely put tough guy P.J. Tucker on Devin Booker, and, you know, it toughened up Devin Booker as a young player. I think if Budenholzer does that, D-Book just steps outside and is raining threes. That's what Kevin Durant feasted on against Booker. So I like over 2.5 threes for Devin Booker in the first game. Sammy P., your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to fade you happily. I'll go under 2.5. I hate minus 118 each way, though. Come on, give me a break. Yeah. Here's the thing about the game plan when you guard Devin Booker. When you have long wings that can chase you off the line, that's the plan. Make them uncomfortable, make them shoot on the run. And I think if you are Milwaukee, you want him taking that mid-range number because obviously 3 is greater than 2. They have such size and length, and they guard and they rotate so well. So even though Booker might take 5 or 6 or 7 threes, you got to knock him down. I don't think he's going to be wide open. I think they're going to tail him around the court, and they're going to try and chase him off that three-point line. I don't love it either way at minus 118, but if anything, I'm going to lean under 2.5. He's going to get the volume, but I think Milwaukee's going to make it paramount to try and chase him off that line and turn that 25-footer into about a 19 or a 20-footer.
Yeah, Chris Broussard, historically, Budenholzer has said, we'll let you shoot threes. You can have all the corner threes you want. We want to protect the rim with Giannis and Lopez. Do you think that's the strategy tonight, whether or not Giannis plays, or do they give up the threes or protect the rim?
No, I think they give up the mid-range. Their drop style of defending the pick and roll is you defend the rim, but you run people off the three. Like if they're going to give up a jump shot, they rather it be a mid-range shot than a three-pointer. And here's the thing, Booker likes that too. Like Booker and Chris Paul, they live in the mid-range. So that's what's going to be interesting. Milwaukee would rather take away the rim and the three, and if they have to give up something, it's the mid-range shot. And Phoenix says, we'll take that. Booker and Paul shoot the mid-range and shot as many mid-range jumpers as just about anybody in the league. And if they're hitting them at a high rate, that could spell trouble for Milwaukee.
All right, next up, Jrue Holiday, 22.5 points is his over-under. It's shaded to the under a little bit. Obviously, this has some concern. If Giannis does play, it's going to eat into somebody's points. Probably Holiday's a little bit. 22.5 seems high. Sammy P, any play on the side here?
Yeah, it seems high because it should be high. I mean, he's been on a mission the last couple of games. He has been the player who has elevated his play the most since Giannis got hurt. And you look at the way CB, he's running to the rim. He's spinning around guys. He's aggressive. I mean, he's really changed the way he's played because now somebody has to step up and take more shots, get more buckets, and fill up that stat sheet. And Holiday has proven that he can score in bunches. It's really been the Middleton show and then the Holiday show. It's been the 1-2 punch. Look, I'm telling you, Giannis, even if Giannis plays, it's an uphill battle in game number one. And if they're down, 10, 15 points in the first game, they're going to take Giannis out, and just because it's a 7-game series. You don't want to burn out your shining star in game one. So I believe Holiday is going to play about 35, 40 minutes. He's going to get enough volume, and I think confidence is really everything in this spot. I think he's going to score 25 or more because he's playing well. He's getting opportunity. And when you're hot, you don't pass the ball. You start taking shots more. He's really changed from a distributor into a scorer, and they're going to need that, especially if Giannis is only at 70 or 80%.
Broussard, Sammy P seems to have forgotten that the Hawks defense is red velvet and Bogdanovic, the Serbian plumber. A bit of a step up in class here, Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Where are you on Holiday tonight?
No, we're absolutely. It's a step up in class. You're playing a much better defense than you saw in Atlanta. But Jrue was great without Giannis. But the thing is, he needs to remain that aggressive, even if Giannis plays. And even if Giannis has it going or plays most of the game, Jrue needs to remain aggressive. He can. Much was made of games 5 and 6 without Giannis. But in games 1 and 2 of that series with Giannis, Jrue had 33 points, 10 assists in game 1, 22 and 7 in game 2. So he can be this productive player even with Giannis on the floor. I think what you want, though, is when Giannis is out there, you still want the ball in Jrue's hands a lot. All right, Giannis really doesn't need to be handling the ball as much as they have him doing that in Milwaukee. So they got to find a good balance between getting it in Jrue's hands and then also getting Giannis his touches if he plays.
And J-Mac, how about this? Think about this if you're a bookmaker. The last thing you want to deal with is a last-minute insertion of Giannis into the lineup because guess what? There is a ripple effect. You have to move the numbers on everybody else. Now you got to move Holiday's prop. Now you got to move Middleton's prop. So the bookmakers are sitting here right now going, uh-oh, we have our contingency plan, and then we have our real plan. And if Giannis plays, it will affect the number literally of every other Milwaukee Buck on the floor. So a bookmaker right now is in a position they hate to be in, the unknown. That's the worst place for a bookmaker.
All right, on the known side, we have Chris Paul. You can bet on Chris Paul to get a double-double. I mean, it feels automatic, plus 105 here. All he's got to get 10 points, 10 assists, and you win. Chris, from a legacy standpoint, I don't think anybody has more on the line here than Chris Paul, who has had a great career, never been able to really break through due to injuries or what have you in the playoffs. The spotlight on Chris Paul here. He closed out the Clippers in style. How do you see Paul performing in game 1?
I think he can come out and have a big game because, again, I think that mid-range jumper will be there, and that's what he lives off of. So I think he can play well. He's obviously had time to rest, not only physically, which has helped his wrists, but also mentally to get off of that high of having finally, in your 16th season, made it to the NBA Finals. They celebrated hard after beating the Clippers in Game 6. So now they've had time to come down and relax and realize that they need to take care of business in these NBA Finals. So, look, Jrue Holiday, whether or not how much they play him on Chris or whether or not they put him on Chris, that's a big factor. Can he disrupt Chris a bit? That could have an impact on how well Chris plays. But I do expect him to come out and have a strong game.
Sammy P, I'm sure you're all over Chris Paul double-double. Feels like a layup.
Well, I hate when you say that. I hate when you say it feels like a layup. I do like the price at plus 105, that's for sure. I think there's correlation between the way Chris Paul plays and the way Deandre Ayton plays. I think we can all agree that we can pencil Paul in for at least 10 points. I don't know about the rebounds. I think it all comes down to the assists. Obviously, that goes without being said. But if Deandre Ayton is making his shots, Chris Paul likely goes over. If Ayton struggles around the rim, this number could be 7, 8, or 9. So you're sort of correlating with the way you think Ayton will play. That's the reality, right? Because we know Paul's going to get him the ball. He's going to find Devin Booker, who's going to pump fake and go to the mid-range. Deandre Ayton, if he goes, 4 of 20 from the floor, Chris Paul won't get a double-double. But if Ayton plays the way that we are used to seeing him play over the last couple of months, then he should get a double-double. And at plus 105, I always say I love pluses more than minuses. Yeah, I would play plus 105 on a double-double.
All right, next up, Brook Lopez, one of the Lopez twins. This guy can actually score. But check this out, over 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Here's my lukewarm take on Brook Lopez. He doesn't play over 30 minutes in this one. I have a feeling Giannis doesn't play at all. And I think they go Bobby Portis and try to play small to keep up with the Suns because the Suns' offense can get high octane. I don't think Lopez plays a ton. I would lean to the under here. But as Sammy notes, the minus 138. Ugh. $138 to win 100, no thanks. But I would lean to the under. Broussard, any thoughts on Brook Lopez tonight?
Yeah, look, I do think he plays a good amount because one of their advantages for Phoenix is their size. And Brook Lopez, back in the day when he played with the Nets, he was a big-time low-post scorer. And so they kind of went back to that in the 2 games against Atlanta when Giannis was out. So I do think they'll see what Lopez can do. Can he have his way with Ayton? I don't think he can, but I think they'll certainly go there and try and see what he can do, especially if Giannis is out. And then obviously he can always step out and hit the three-point shot, particularly the corner three. The thing is, for that line, he's never, even in his prime, was never a big rebounder.
Yeah.
He is a shot blocker, though. I think he has 7 in the last 2 games against Atlanta. So between points and block shots, he might get a couple of assists, and then he will get some rebounds. He could eclipse that number.
Yeah, you probably need 15 points for Lopez. I mean, if we're doing the math here and you break down the 3 categories, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and then you need 15 or 16 points, right? I mean, that's a reality. Chris, you nailed it. If it was 10 years ago, he's getting buckets at the rim. Now he's shooting 24-footers. It's amazing how his career has changed. He's the Blake Griffin of the Milwaukee Bucks. He's no longer at the rim. He's no longer backing a guy down and dropping in a baby hook. He's 7'1", shooting step back threes. And that makes me nervous. I lean to the under, but I hate laying minus 138. I refuse to lay that much on a prop. So it's a pass for me. When a guy has to get threes at 7 foot to get over a prop like this, I run away. Yeah. I get away,
Sprint away. Well, this next one I think you guys are going to like. Deandre Ayton, over 16.5 points. And I forget which one of you guys mentioned earlier, but as Deandre Ayton goes, Chris Paul's right there with him. And I will point out that Deandre Ayton has caught teams by surprise in Game 1. 21-16 against Anthony Davis and the Lakers, and then had 20-9 in each of the other 2 Game 1s. This guy's better than advertised. And in Game 1, they look to establish him early. I like DeAndre Ayton over 16.5 points. One of my favorite prop bets tonight. I think he eats early and often. Chris Broussard, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been a real treasure and discovery for the Suns. Look, he's played well. Even last year when he came back from his 25-game suspension, he played well. The Suns saw an uptick in wins. And then this year he was a little bit better. And then in the playoffs, he looks like a future star. So that's one of the most intriguing matchups to me in this series is Lopez against Ayton. And then if Giannis, when he plays, do they ever put Ayton on him? Ayton's long, Ayton's athletic, he's strong. He can be a factor because you don't have to run a ton of plays for him to get his numbers other than, alley-oops at the rim and things like that. But you can run plays for him because he's got a nice little mid-range jumper and he can score inside, around the basket. So DeAndre Ayton, if he outplays the big men for the Bucks, then that's a huge advantage for the Suns.
I've been the most impressed with the way Ayton plays in transition. I've been really impressed with how he handles the ball, how he moves without the ball, and how he runs to the rim. If you get over this number, it's not going to be, 9 dunks or 9 baby hooks. You're going to need some help. And I think you'll get that in transition. Milwaukee, as we've seen, they love those long jump shots. And Ayton has been very good at trailing down the floor and getting easy buckets. We've seen him finish with the left and the right. He's acrobatic. He can rip the rim off if he needs to. But I think if you can get about 6 or 8 points in transition from Ayton, and that's not out of the ordinary by any means. He can get over this number, but that's the key to him getting over. He needs to be effective in transition, and that's an avenue for him getting over 16.5.
All right, let's move on to win the series. Now, this one's difficult, guys, because we don't know if Giannis plays in Game 1, Game 2, and frankly, given the playoffs, Sam and Chris, you know this, like, who knows what's going to happen injury-wise? Everybody's been hurt in a series, so I'm not touching this. The number, though, Phoenix heavy favorites to win the series, minus 182. You got to lay the lumber if you want to win any money. Milwaukee Bucks, any takers? Chris, Sam, either of you like the underdog Bucks here?
Look, I'll say this. I'm picking Phoenix. I've got Phoenix in 6. As you said, it's difficult to pick without knowing, number one, will Giannis play? How much will he play? And then, 2, how effective will he be? But I'll say this. If Giannis does play and say by Game 3 he's up to 85, 90%, like he's essentially looks like himself, I give Milwaukee a shot. I think they got a 40 to 45% chance of winning if Giannis is able to play from Game 3 on effectively. Without him, I think it's a very slim chance that they win. But I do think they can make it competitive. I think it could go 6 games even without Giannis or without an effective Giannis. But I think the Bucks, it'd be darn near, I won't say a miracle, but close if they were able to win this without Giannis.
Let me take something a little next level here. And Chris sort of touched on this earlier about all you have to do on the road is split. So I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket at this point in time. Here's what you can do, though. Assuming the Suns win Game 1 with Giannis on the floor or not, even if he plays, he's not going to be as effective as he can be. You can wait. You can sit out and you can watch Game 1 and you can take your notes from that. And my perspective is if Milwaukee loses Game 1, which the numbers say that they likely will as a 5.5-point dog, that plus 155, J-Mac, is going to go to plus 225.
Yes.
And if you bet it at plus 225, and they win Game 2 and go back to Milwaukee, split up 1-1, all of a sudden Milwaukee's about plus 135. It's always about the right team at the right price. I don't feel good about Milwaukee at this point. I want to see how they play. I want to see how they carry themselves. I want to see how they guard Devin Booker. And I want to see if Giannis plays, is he effective? So I'm going to wait. But if Milwaukee loses Game 1, I will definitely go back to the well in Milwaukee. I'll play him to win the series after Game 1.
All right, I like this next bet. You can, on Fox Bet, decide how many games the team's going to win the series in. So personally, I like to always throw some pizza money on the sweep. I really do think the Suns have a chance. I think you guys are vastly overrating the Milwaukee Bucks for beating an Atlanta Hawks team that, come on, guys, let's be realistic. That's not a great Hawks team. And I will point this out. Great thing in my notes. The Suns have won 12 straight games decided by 5 points or less. Chris Paul is immensely clutch. And the Bucks are 71% free throw shooters. The worst left in the playoffs. Well, there's only 2 teams. But the Suns, 86% from the line. Great free throw shooting team. Even if Giannis comes back. I mean, the guy stinks at free throws. Suns better in the clutch. Suns healthier. I think the Suns have a chance at a sweep here, gentlemen.
J-Mac, if you just want to throw away some money, then throw it my way. All right, just send me the money and save yourself a bet.
you
I don't
think no
see
chance of a sweep?
I think you're disrespecting the Milwaukee Bucks. That Atlanta team did beat Philadelphia, and you can talk all you want about Joel Embiid's injury. He still played well and put up big numbers. So I think they make it competitive even without Giannis. As I said, they do have the size advantage. They do play more 5-team basketball. It's an equal opportunity offense when Giannis is not there. Doesn't mean they're better without him. It means they're different. And they've got 3 guys on that team who have made all-star games. So, and they have played like it when Giannis has been out. So I'm not saying they win the series without Giannis, but getting swept, I'd be a bit surprised at that.
I think we can all agree these are not the 2 best teams in the NBA playoffs. This has been the war of attrition, for that matter. It's been who's been the healthiest, and that's why these two teams are right here. I mean, does Milwaukee get through Brooklyn at full strength? Probably not. I think, J-Mac, too, you're also not paying enough attention to the fact that Phoenix beat the Lakers without Davis, the Nuggets without Murray, and the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard. I mean, give me a break, man. It has been French doors to the finals here. Pop that back up. Let me see my 7-game prices here. I'm looking at the Bucks in 7, and I'm looking at the Suns in 7. I'll split a unit there. Give me $100. I'm going to cut it in half. I think this one goes the distance because I don't think either team is dominant. I think every team in this series, or both teams for that matter, has flaws. I'll put $100. I'll split it in half. Phoenix in 7, Milwaukee in 7. I like the plus 375 and the 6-1. That's what I would do for the exact series.
So for the record, we have Broussard, Suns in 6, Sammy P, Bucks in 7. Chris Middleton showing up in a big spot. I got the Suns in a sweep. Now let's get to everybody's favorite, the MVP of the finals. I just want to say, before we see the MVP odds, guys, the media votes on this. You know the media loves Chris Paul. They cannot stop talking about the point guard. I don't know if Chris Broussard has an MVP vote. Personally, this Chris Paul stuff makes me nauseous. But guess who's the favorite, Sammy P, to be the finals MVP?
You knew it would be Chris Paul. And it's funny because I did a radio spot this morning and they're like, is there value on Chris Paul to win the MVP? Are you out of your mind? Before the playoffs started, this is a market that's been very fluid. You know, before the postseason started, Chris Paul was like 50-1 to win the finals MVP. Obviously, he's the favorite now. So if your question is there value on Chris Paul? No, get a new hobby. There was not value at plus 150 when it was 50-1 before the postseason. Middleton is the name that jumps. J-Mac, you put some respect on this man's name. He's been the best fourth quarter scorer in the last 2 rounds. So for the number and for the allocation of the dollar, Middleton at 6-1. If Milwaukee can push this, like here's the thing. If the Suns can breeze through early, that's fine. But if you let the Bucks hang around and let Milwaukee get healthier, Bucks have a chance here to win the series. And at 6-1, I think Chris Middleton is a pretty decent pop.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm with you, Sam. I think that's not a bad bet. Chris Paul, there is a sentimental factor. I have voted before for the finals MVP. I won't be voting this year. But there have been some head scratchers. You know, most the one that really stands out to me is they voted Andre Iguodala in 2015 over Steph Curry as the MVP. Now, that does say that they may not play fair. As much as they may want Chris Paul to be the finals MVP, if Devin Booker really has more of an impact, or even Deandre Ayton, then one of them could get it. But certainly going in, the sentimental favorite, and I think the favorite overall, does have to be Chris Paul, just because of the media really kind of wanting to see him win this.
I personally think Devin Booker's probably the best player in the series, given the Giannis injury. Sammy P, real quick, Giannis plus 350. We don't even know if he's playing in game 1 or game 2. How does that work?
Liability. There's been money going into Giannis this entire postseason. And remember, this is not just something that starts going into this series. This has been a future market since the postseason started. So there have been enough bets on Giannis over the last 6 to 8 weeks to justify him being lower. The true number, I would say at this point, if it's only finals on, you know, you're talking about maybe 12-1, 14-1. But because there's been money going into the Giannis kitty this entire postseason, the books don't want to write any more money on Giannis. They're cooked if he wins already. So you have to make it a situation where people look elsewhere. You don't want to write any more Giannis bets at 9, 10, 11-1.
Yeah.
Make it 350 so nobody else bets it.
All right, there it is. NBA Finals Talk the Line. I'm going to try to talk the powers that be into an NBA Draft Talk the Line. I love gambling on the draft. Sammy P, I know you're there. Broussard, I hope you're not on vacation for that. Stick around. We'll talk to you guys soon.